good afternoon, guys. Thanks for being here today. I have another Bark River knife to show off to you guys. This one is their EDC Bravo. I'll show it to you in just a second. I have given this blade a pretty hard workout in the last few days. A lot of the film that I took was kind of unplanned, but I realized with the stuff that I was doing, it was a perfect opportunity to show it off to you guys. So anyway, as you can see, this knife has been well used in the last few days. Let me get this knife cleaned up and I'll tell you more about it. Alright guys, well, welcome back. Thanks for choosing to spend your time with me today. I do appreciate it very much. Like I said, we have the Bark River EDC Bravo. Now that she's nice and cleaned up, I'm not ashamed to show her off a little bit. As you can see, it is just a beautiful little knife. Now it is a smaller knife. It is in the range of what I would consider to be a true EDC size. It is legal to carry in my state. My state has a lot of asinine knife laws, but this one does meet all the criteria. Right now, I have got the sheath paired up with this American knife company, Denali, which if you guys have been paying attention to my channel for any length of time, you know I am absolutely in love with this larger knife. So what I mean by that, guys, is this large knife, it is the heavy duty knife, and then where this one doesn't excel at, which it excels at most everything you ask of it, but the EDC Bravo comes in really handy for the smaller, you know, campfire tasks and cooking tasks and stuff like that when I'm out and about in camp or hiking or whatnot. While I've got this on camera, I do want to kind of highlight the sheath. It's pretty difficult to show it off to you too well as I've got it tied to this Denali sheath, but as you can see, it is a standard Bark River design, so you know it's high quality leather. It'll hold up. Don't know if the lighting is going to let me show this off very well or not, but there is a belt loop back here, so you can put this sheath on your belt. It is also small enough that I would consider it a pocketable sheath. It is a bit long, so if you're a smaller person, your pockets are obviously going to be a little bit smaller, so it may not work for you, but I'm a larger guy, and it does fit in my pocket well, whether I use my back pocket or my front pocket. It fits in there nicely and isn't uncomfortable. Before we get into the specs, guys, one thing I do want to point out really quick is it is a Bravo, and one thing I do like about the Bravo line is the handles are all virtually identical. As the size of the Bravo changes, obviously the size of the handle is going to change, but the contouring and the feel in your hand, aside from that size difference, it is the exact same. This knife right here is the Bravo 1. If my understanding is correct, the Bravo 1 is Bark River Knives' most #1 sold knife, and honestly, I can see why. So as you can see, guys, these handles are virtually identical. The only difference is the size. The reason I feel that's important enough to point out is, you know, I have a lot of knives. A lot of you guys have a lot of knives. If you have more than one Bravo, no matter what the size is, whether it's an EDC all the way up to a Bravo 3, the feel in the hand is going to be the same. So it's a familiar feel. You don't have to readjust. You don't have to get used to a different size knife or a different style of handle, which I think is pretty neat in the Bravo line that they've kept them all basically the same. While we're talking about the handle, guys, you know I have bigger hands. This is a smaller knife. Usually that creates an issue with me, but it really doesn't. You know, I look at this, while it is a stout blade and it can handle a lot of heavy work, I look at this as a light camp crafting knife, you know, whether you're crafting out a bow drill set or, you know, feather sticking for your fire, doing light crafting tasks. This fills out my hand nicely. And the size of the knife and the size of the handle is still in that size range to, if I'm processing an animal, get my hand here where you can see, to hold it in my preferred grip, which is straight down the diagonal line of my hand with the pommel resting on the heel of my palm and the tip leaving about a quarter or a half inch beyond that, so the point just acts as an extension of my finger. One more thing I'd like to point out, guys, before we get on to the meat and potatoes of this video is, as you can see on the stamp, this blade is an Elmax. Now, in the last EDC Bark River blade review that I did, that one was Elmax as well, and I got a lot of questions about ease of maintenance, edge retention, strength of the steel, stuff like that. This is a relatively new steel in the knife market. It's been around for, I think, 4, maybe 5 years, mainstream anyway. I believe the steel was invented or developed in 2008. But as far as hitting mainstream knife making, I believe it's only been about 4 or 5 years. So that to say, to the general masses, so to speak, the steel itself isn't that well known. Guys, I have been really impressed with the strength, edge retention, and the maintenance, or the ease of maintenance on this blade. If I had to compare it to a common carbon steel, I would put it in the range of, as far as ease of maintenance, in 01, so it is really simple. As far as edge retention goes, I would put it somewhere probably between 01 and A2 as far as how long that edge lasts. But again, that's just my personal observation, so that is going to be kind of subjective. I'm not an expert at metallurgy or anything like that, guys, so I can't put an exact definition to it. That's just my experience and how I would try to describe it to somebody. Lastly, guys, it is not a full convex grind, but it is pretty close, which again, it comes to a very fine edge, but there's a lot of metal behind it to give it a lot of meat for a lot of edge retention, edge strength, and just blade strength overall. And with all that said out of the way, guys, let's get on to the specs, and then we'll start showing this knife off for real. Okay guys, the specs on this knife, overall length is 7.125 inches, the blade thickness is 0.125 inches, the blade length itself is 3.375 inches. Again, the steel is Elmax, so it is a stainless steel, very corrosion resistant. It's a steel, like I mentioned before, I've been really impressed with, but it's also light. The overall weight of this blade outside of the sheath is 3 ounces. So, anyway, specs are out of the way, guys. Let's get to work. Well, guys, what I mean by light firecrafting is basically taking small-ish, medium-sized softwoods and just turning it into kindling. So this may be a small knife, but it is perfectly capable of that. Spine does well for processing inner bark. That thin convex edge, feathers like a dream. I'm not going to run that into the ground, but it does a really good job at feathering as well. It's got a really good push cut bite to it. So if you want to do some notching for whatever the reason, whether it be friction fire, primitive trapping, or just crafting a kit together, it's nice and strong so you can pop your notch out. Yet has a nice fine tip that's very controllable to get inside your notch or whatever it is you're crafting and just do some finer, more precise material removal. It does have a 90-degree spine. This is an EDC knife, obviously, so it is geared for a lot of tasks, which one of them I would consider to be a normal task for an EDC blade is cutting cordage. Here is 4 lengths of paracord right through there. Another thing that's a normal EDC type task for me and my family, we take a lot of walks in our woods, and I have a lot of short people in my family, and so I have to be conscientious about where we walk and stuff like that. Sometimes I find it the easiest to just go ahead and start cutting little trails where we go quite often, and this one is perfect for that. You can easily remove small saplings, branches, and stuff like that. That was just a quick rundown of what I consider to be the most common tasks for an EDC sized or styled bushcraft or woodscraft type blade. It may be different for you, but that's what's most common to me. Now I'd like to get into the more modern world type EDC uses. Now guys, keep in mind that this wasn't filmed with production value in mind. So that being said, guys, I just threw a GoPro on my head and let the camera. What I was doing in one of these scenes, I was replacing a fuel tank in my truck. I used the EDC Bravo to pry out the vent hole or vent plug on the top of my old tank. I used it to clean up the fuel tank straps, to get the old padding material off of there. Used it to open the box, cut the new padding to fit for the fuel straps, etc., etc. So anyway, guys, that to say, this would be what I would consider to be a true urban type use of an EDC blade. Another thing I'd like to show off to you guys, just to set this next little clip up. I live out in the country, so that being said, we do have to deal with possums and raccoons and other critters that get into things that we don't really want them to. There's been a possum that's been getting on our porch and stealing my dog's food from time to time, so I decided to set up a 220 Conibear to go ahead and grab that possum, remove him from the equation, so to speak. I've seen this footage, it's not the best, so I am going to kind of recreate it, but I'll throw that into. All I was doing, guys, is I had to make some stakes to pin that trap to the ground. And I really want to highlight, normally I wouldn't recreate something like this, but I really want to highlight the bite on this knife. Convex edges are really good at fine material removal, but the way Bark River does theirs, it's got a lot of controlled bite too. The more I use these convex edges, the more impressed I am. Alright guys, well that pretty much does it for the Bark River EDC Bravo. It's a sweet little blade if I don't say so myself. Now guys, I realize that all the footage on this isn't prime. I wanted to bring you guys along for some real world uses of this and not just recreations. I really hope you've enjoyed that aspect, even if the filming of it wasn't done professionally. Not like I'm a professional or anything, but you guys know what I'm saying. So I guess the question we're left with here is, does this fit the bill for an EDC blade? Yes, it does. It does so fantastically. And I have to say, it also lives up to the reputation of the Bravo series very well. And as far as my final thoughts on this knife, guys, it is a great little EDC blade. Whether you're in the woods, in your house, just urban crafting, so to speak, whatever you're doing, working on your car, it's small, it's light, it's convenient to use, it fills your hand out nicely, but it's not so huge that it's cumbersome. It's got the perfect blade length for an EDC style blade in my opinion. Anyway, I have no complaints about this knife whatsoever. It fits the bill of an EDC blade fantastically. Anyway guys, I've rambled enough. I do apologize for all my rambling here in this video. Anyway guys, if you liked the video, found it helpful, maybe make a decision about whether this is the knife for you or not, please go ahead and give me a thumbs up. I would be very grateful. Also guys, if you haven't done so yet, there's that subscribe button right down there. If you would hit that, if you want to hang around and see some more Bark River knife reviews, camp cooking, just stuff like that. Also guys, as always, hit up the comments section. Let's talk about this knife, other EDC options you'd like to see, maybe something you'd like me to review or show off in the future. Anyway, again, thank you very much for being here. Guys, I will see you next time. Have a great day.